Hello YouTube, Snowtaro Kujo is about to get an LD and I'm here to talk about it. In this video, before you pull on Snow's LD, I'll go over his kit, give you some things to think about before you use your limited resources. If you're not familiar with my channel, I play both JP and Global, and I use that experience along with my research to form my own opinions. I like hearing y'all's thoughts, so go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section below. While you're here, like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so you don't miss a video. If you want to further support the channel, you can become a member for $1. You get custom emotes, and I always reply to your comments. Lastly, check out my weekly stream, The Ranting Hour, link in the playlist and the card. I talk about my current thoughts on the game and go more in depth about topics. Snow's role is a tank who does damage, similar to Zac, but they go about it a bit differently. Snow leans more into Brave gains and Battery, and the rift between the two characters gets even wider with Snow's LD. Both of his skills received a rework. His skill 1, Steel Guard, now has more uses, is inherently ice damage, and gets more Brave hits before the HP attack. It's also a free turn. His skill 2, Frost Strike, is now a Brave gain into 3 Brave plus HP attacks. There's refund in the middle of these attacks. Snow can heal himself more, and all overheals are converted to Brave, so another safe attack. And now for the LD, which really changes Snow. The attack itself is a Brave gain into 2 split AoE Brave plus HP attacks. There's refund in the middle of these attacks and refund afterwards. It drops an Ice Imperil on the bosses and gives Snow his new Vendetta buff. This buff gives Snow a personal Ice enchant along with selfish HP damage up. He gets 10% party HP regen, which can potentially stack with its additional ability. He gives everyone but himself 60% Brave damage resist up, and Snow doesn't really need it because he prevents all Brave damage to himself essentially anyways. And additionally, from his LD board, he gets a self Brave gain up by 30%, and he reduces the party's HP damage taken by 30%, which adds on to his previous buffs for a total of 50%. All this to say, he improves his personal damage and helps the team stay alive. The stacks of Snow's new buff allow him to do preemptive turn attacks. This is not a counter attack, it is an attack that occurs before Snow's turn, similar to Jagron and Core. This will only trigger right before Snow acts. While this buff is up, Snow will always do a preemptive attack, but the attack changes based on how many stacks he has. These stacks can be increased either by using LD to get it to 2, or Snow must simply take Brave or HP damage before his next turn. At base, the attack will be 2 split AoE Brave plus HP attacks with refund in the middle and afterwards. That also implies his Ice Imperil. And if Snow is at 2 stacks before his next action, this turns into 4 split AoE Brave plus HP attacks. So his damage doubles if he takes Brave or HP damage before his next turn. And after he does the plus version of his preemptive attack, the stacks will go back down to 1 and he needs to get hit again to enable that next damage before his next turn. Fairly straightforward. His high armor is Encouragement, the battery one, and he also has a C slot for Paladin Cecil's RF, so if you got one of those, he becomes a pretty potent Brave battery for the team. Additionally, because Snow has 30% Brave gain up baked into his LD, and then he gets the 30% from his armor, he's going to be battering like crazy. That's almost enough to cancel out the Brave gain reductions we normally get. His high armor plus is split evenly between Brave and HP caps, and it is selfish. Snow does end up having a higher HP damage cap just because he has Encouragement. We already had his base call, which just did lock and gave the caller a defensive buff. But his LD call is actually pretty decent. He does his attack, drops the Ice Imperil, etc. And the caller gets Ice Enchant, so they can hit weakness damage. They get HP damage up, and they get Brave gains up by 20%. Selfish. Potentially handy. I could see Zac or Machina really appreciating this because they like Brave gains on their attacks. So now for my analysis. Snow's strengths lie in his damage. The damage dealer as tank thing that I explained with Zac a while back also applies to Snow. He just goes about this damage differently. Provided you can consistently proc his good preemptive attack with the 4 HP attacks, and you're pressing skill 2, that's 7 HP attacks that Snow can cap. His own HP cap is like 130,000 if he's blue. So on paper, a blue Snow could pump out 900,000 damage a turn. So on paper, if you add the plus version of Snow's preemptive attack along with using his skill 2 against 2 targets, Snow could break 1 million damage in total. And it could get even more disgusting if Snow has other forms of HP cap up. I think his damage is a bit slept on, similar to Zac, because you gotta enable the split damage with HP damage up, HP caps, and overflow. But he can pump out really good numbers. Because he's providing 60% Brave gains to himself, his batteries in between his attacks will be really high, so his damage ends up being extremely self-sufficient. He's got HP regen, Brave damage resist, and 50% HP damage resist, which is hilariously high. All for the party, and if you really need more HP regen, you can use his additional ability. I think that bumps it up to 20%. Bosses will just be tickling the party. So Snow ends up being extremely plug and play. While you can steroid his damage to go way up there, you can also just not worry about him and just let him do his tanking thing. So I'd say he has a pretty consistent damage floor, but that ceiling is nuts. As for weaknesses, to get this crazy damage that Snow can potentially do, the bosses need to hit him. The community tends to get really stupid when tanks come into the discussion. Just like how Auron's kind of dead in the water if he's not countering, like you could just throw him in for his debuff and get him out. Snow's preemptive damage and thus his damage potential is severely gimped if he doesn't get hit before his turns. Zac doesn't have this problem. Zac only needs to get hit a few times and be targeted, and then he can go nuts. But like Snow in a summon phase, for example, his damage will just be nerfed because the bosses aren't hitting him beforehand. So ideally, you'd probably want to swap Snow out if you're going into like a burst phase or something. He gives nice defensive auras, but he's not making the party do any damage at all. While he does provide HP regen and potentially even more with his additional ability, he has no burst heal for the party. So if you take a bunch of HP damage for the party, you need to let the other party members get turns to heal them back up. And while Snow can function as the main DPS, he might seem underwhelming in damage if you don't fully invest into him and build around his damage, because he really needs that HP damage up, overflow, and HP cap ups to see nutty stuff. And if you want the bosses getting minimal turns, then Snow will not be optimal. So for potential Snow teams, it can go either way. If you want to just run him as a tank and not really care about his damage, then it really doesn't matter because he's so self-sufficient. But if you're going that route, then you need a really strong support in order to enable your main DPS. So it'd be main DPS, strong support, say like Maria, maybe Lena, Queen upcoming. Those auras are not it, so you need to buff your DPS otherwise. But if you want to enable Snow's own damage, like I've been saying, he loves HP caps, HP damage up, and overflows. This is so he can hit his HP cap on his preemptive attack. So Lena, Maria, Ishtola, Porum, his girlfriend Sarah, who's coming in a few weeks, is an extremely nice pair for him. Maybe even Selfie, although there might be a buff conflict there. Just don't run in people who prevent the bosses from acting. So Quistis is a no-go, Agrius is probably a bad idea. Deleters, speed down, etc. Let Snow take the damage and dish the damage back at the enemies. For upcoming fights, Snow can be useful in Transcendent 7 on the right, where you need to do an attack when a duration on something goes down, and for the middle where you need HP heals. Also, because the preemptive, he can go back and do Kadaj's Lost Chapter, for example. Nothing else jumps out at me, but he's pretty versatile overall. So what are my plans? I was initially planning to skip Snow because he's not compatible with Zac. Additionally, I pulled his LD and JP and then never used him. Now, after going over his kit and looking around, I think I might invest. I'm nearing ticket cap and I don't have any planned pulls for the next month of C90, so might as well, because as it turns out, I can just do multiple runs. I can run Zac and I can also run Snow. I super think his damage is being slept on, and I want to see what he can do running him also with Maria and maybe Lena. Raise those HP caps and see how high the split HP damage can go. I might mess around and blue him. I like his voice actor is just too funny, being Jotaro. And Erwin Smith, I love those characters. He does rerun down the line with the C90 where he gets BT, and I hope that doesn't ruin some of the discourse now because Snow is still very good currently, as I have demonstrated. Similarly with Zac, his C90 comes with Lise, who is alright, but the rest of his BT cycle is actually kind of nuts because it's got Raijin and Kadaj 90, who are also very good, and then it's got Cisne, who I'm about to simp for again. Cisne being one of the meta follow-up units. So yeah, if I really enjoy him a lot, I think I might blue him. Although I think I'm running out of those materials, to be honest. The fight is against the Tyrant from 13. Last time we saw this thing was Lightning's BT and LD, I think. The orb is +1 on ice damage and +3 when you reduce brave damage taken per ally. Thank you, Excalibur. So this means single target attacks will up the orb by 3 and AoEs will up it by 9. They want you to bring a tank or some protection. The ad has something where it warps whoever it attacks forward. This is obviously to sell Snow, as it'll attack him, warp him forward, then he'll get his plus Vendetta attack. And the Tyrant, if the recast breaks you, then you get whacked. Otherwise, I don't think it has many too dangerous attacks. Just watch out for the ad. I remember during this fight, Kurasami was synergy along with Setzer and Zidane. It was a paid LD banner. Who knows if that'll show back up in Global? Probably not. But if you have some form of ice damage in the party, then you can no boss turn this. Kurasame call on a unit that doesn't take a turn. So maybe like Sid Mao and Kane in the air with the Kurasame call. Or you can just bring a tank. Celes obviously will prosper here because of the ice and damage reduction. Zac, Beatrix, Core, once again, eating. Warrior Light, Gladio, Kurasame, and Party for once. In JP, I ran Kurasame, Warrior Light, and Machina, and then I ended up not going full throttle on Machina. Machina could probably blow these guys up for the orb matters. Lots of options here. In GL, I want to run Zac, Maria 3rd, per usual. But I'll probably also bring Snow Maria 3rd, or probably Lena, to just raise his HP caps and see how much his damage is without being blue. Oh, Lena's also a good idea on this fight, just to avoid the debuffs the main guy does. So, as for my advice, before you pull, this ain't for people who already decided, just people who are maybe looking to save, kind of broke, don't know what to do with their resources. Here's some things to think about. If you have no tanks, then Snow's a great idea. period. We don't get another tank for a while, I think. We got Cater, who's an evasion DPS, which doesn't really count, and then Layla, who does her evasion thing. But outside of that, I think the next time we get an actual tank is like Zack's BT. If you're not comfortable giving bosses turns, or you don't usually like to play like that, then Snow's not the one for you, because it's a huge damage loss if the bosses don't act. And really, if you're not willing to optimize Snow's damage, like Blue and then HP caps, etc., running him as main DPS, and he's probably going to seem underwhelming as well. So if you're not committed, skip. Additionally, Lion's on the banner and she kind of sucks, so it's not great incentive. But if you don't have Machina as BT already like me, then there's some more incentive. If you're a veteran and your roster's well-rounded and you're not willing to commit into Snow's damage, I'd say you should probably skip. And JP, because I never ran Snow, I just use him as an auto farmer because of his preemptive attack. I also even got his BT because, like I said, his BT cycle was so loaded, but I never used it. He can do some like brave gain. There's some cheese going on with Snow that I can't explain properly. And I must say once again, for all the people saying I'll wait until his BT, I don't think half of you are actually going to do it, so just say you're skipping, bruh. I might green Snow down the line too. I shouldn't limit myself from fun units just because I can't run it with Zack. But just know, having Orin or Zack is not a good reason to skip Snow necessarily. They all play wildly different and need different things to optimize them. But that is all I got. Let me know what you all think in the comments, and again, like the video, subscribe. Check out the Ranting Hour. This video is last minute, but I got it done. I'll catch y'all later. Have a great day. Happy New Year's. Peace.